The Oilers need more from Connor McDavid. Is that true or just a serious cop-out? I guess you could tell how I feel about that. For his thoughts, let's bring in Ryan Rishaug from Edmonton. Shogger, yes, it's true. Connor McDavid has been held without a point in 4 of his last 7 games, but he's still averaging almost 2 points a game in these playoffs. Is this really a McDavid issue, or is this supporting cast just failing him right now?
Well, I would say, Gino, that they're in these games. It's not like they're getting blown out. They got a split in Dallas against a pretty good team. It's hard. The other team has some real good defensemen that do a heck of a good job being in shooting lanes and shutting people down. I don't know if the Oilers winning this series or a Stanley Cup, if what that looks like is Connor McDavid getting 2-3 points a night and blowing the doors off the way we see it in the regular season. I think it's going to be harder for him from here on in because I think the hockey is harder. So we maybe take regular season expectations and put them on him and Draisaitl in these playoffs. And we've seen it, sure, against Calgary and in previous years. The numbers they put up have been ridiculous. But he's finding his moments. The other team's doing a good job too. So I don't know, Gino. I guess the question is, do you have the same expectations production-wise on him now that you had during the regular season? I just think it's harder. He's still playing well to my eye.
Yeah, and here's my thought. My thought right now is the Oilers' third line in particular isn't getting the job done. I'm hearing there's going to be some changes being made there. What are they doing there?
So Adam Henrique is finally healthy and ready to come in. Henrique, we believe it's a high ankle sprain. They tried to bring him back early in the Vancouver series, and it was too quick. He couldn't skate, got exposed on a penalty kill, and a big goal was scored against. So they've taken him out, and they've waited more than long enough for him to be healthy and ready to come in. I think he could have played last game, but they decided to give him a few extra days. So Adam Henrique draws back in, can kill penalties, can win faceoffs, is a savvy player who's sure-handed. And I think that matters in a series where possession is so important. Now, the issue will be the speed because Henrique is not the fleetest of foot. And, Gino, the guy they're bringing out is Ryan McLeod. Ryan McLeod's been their third-line center for most of this season. He's one of the fastest skaters they have. Now, I often harp on him for being a perimeter player that doesn't get into it and get physical. He's actually tied for the team lead in hits in this series. He's got 7 in 2 games. So while he started finishing more checks, he's also started making some more mistakes in the defensive end. He was the one that coughed up the puck in Game 7 that let the Canucks mount that comeback late. And then in this last game, if you look at the Stars' second goal, he could have been in a shooting lane, and he took a longer route to get there and wasn't. And those are the kinds of mistakes right now that are unacceptable. So they sacrifice speed, Gino, but they bring some veteran savvy in. But I think you nailed it. This is all about that third line. These are changes on that third line that has not produced.
Speaking of changes, there's a possibility that Rupe Hintz comes back in. This would be more bad news for Connor McDavid because he could be seeing a lot of Hintz, who's been spectacular shutting down the top line of the opposition so far. What are the chances he plays, and how do you think the Stars use him? Do they use him against McDavid, or would they use him against Draisaitl, or does this force Chris Knoblauch maybe to keep Draisaitl and McDavid on separate lines to make him a little bit less effective?
Yeah, I mean, I believe McDavid and Draisaitl will be on separate lines tonight, I think regardless of whether Hintz is in or not. Now, they didn't skate. They didn't have a full skate today, so we're not 100% certain. But I think they feel that they've found a formula there, and I don't know that they're going to get away from it. As for Hintz, the Stars just wrapped up their skate. He was on the ice. Quite often, Gino, if a player is injured but close to coming back in the lineup, what they'll do is they'll take practice with the team, and then they'll stay out a little bit after and do some conditioning skate just to make sure their lungs are where they need to be so when they get back into game action, they're fully up to speed. And that's an indication that, okay, he's close, but he's not coming back. And that's what he's done the last few skates. But today he didn't do that. Today he took skate with the bulk of the group and then came off the ice. So it sets up for a return based on some of the signs that we see here this morning, and it's massive. I mean, he's big, he's fast, he's physical. You pointed out the ability he has to shut down some of the other team's better players. It's a huge swing. So the Oilers get a 24-goal scorer in Henrique back tonight. We'll see if the Stars get their big guy back. The dynamic in the series definitely shifts a little bit with these two players coming back, but in particular with Hintz.
All right, I'm going to pose the problem the Oilers are having right now, and then you give me the solution, and
Okay.
maybe Chris Knobloch is listening and he can fix it. The Oilers obviously have the best power play in these playoffs. 15 of their goals have come with the man advantage. That's almost a third of the goals they've scored in these playoffs on the power play. The problem is Dallas doesn't take power play, doesn't take penalties. They were the least penalized team in the entire NHL this season. So how do the Oilers draw penalties to get the chance on the power play from a team that doesn't take penalties?
Yeah, well, I think that the Oilers need to up the physical ante in this series a little bit. They had 20 hits. They were out hit in the last game. I find the Oilers play better when they physically dictate things a little bit more. They have this bad habit of kind of coming out and waiting to see what the other team's going to do physically before they decide how physical they're going to be. And I think they play better when they come out and dictate. So when you're finishing checks, you're turning over more pucks, quite frankly. And when you're turning over pucks, you have players scrambling to get them back. And so I think you stand the chance of drawing more penalties when you're dictating the pace and the physicality of the game. And I think that's something that the Oilers got away from, certainly in Game 2. They came out, they were very good in the first period. But I'd like to see the physical ante raised a little bit here, Gino. It's not the way Dallas wants to play. Like, it's amazing. There is nothing after the whistles. Dallas, it's almost like they don't want to have the referees even thinking about blowing their whistles. Like, the play goes, I mean, Jake Ottinger got run over last game, and barely anybody even breathed a hot breath towards Dylan Holloway, right? So, but Dallas doesn't want the refs engaged. They don't want the scrums. They don't want the mayhem, because then what you're doing is you're engaging the refs, and the refs start to feel like we got to be doing our jobs here. They do a great job of basically letting the refs just skate around out there, and that's part of their strategy. So I think for the Oilers, you got to take advantage of a team that wants to play it that way. Get a little more physical, right? Start to finish checks, start to get a little bit greasy, up the physical ante and the temperature of the game a little bit, and maybe some penalties will start flowing.
What did you think of Chris Knobloch? You were there at the presser when Knobloch was saying, hey, it's a different standard in the playoffs. Things that would draw penalties during the regular season don't draw penalties during the postseason. Pretty clear message he sent to the NHL, like maybe the Stars are getting away with a little bit much here.
Well, yeah, it was kind of like the safest shot across the bow you could send, because he also was like, I'm not saying it's unfair. Like, it's the same for both teams. What I read into that, Gino, is he was basically saying they call way more in the regular season than they do here in the playoffs, and that kind of sucks for us, talking about the Oilers, right? It would be way better if they would call the regular season standard here in the playoffs. So that's unfortunate for us, he's saying, that they don't do that. I mean, they're not calling regular season standards in the NHL playoffs. You know, I am so sick and tired of the discussion about how nobody wants the refs to manage the game. BS would be my thought to that. That is just not the way. Every one of us has watched a playoff game and said to the guy next to us, they're calling that in the third period of Game 6? Come on. The standard changes. We all know it does. It always has. It always will. They will never call regular season standard rules in the playoffs. It's never happening. So, sure, would it be nice for the Oilers? Yes. Is it anywhere close to being realistic? No chance, Lance, Gino.
Hey, listen, I'm still on your side there, my friend. It's now a best of 5. The Oilers have home ice. They haven't lost 2 straight in these playoffs, 4-0 coming off a loss. Not only that, but coming off a loss, they've outscored their opponents 18-7. So I would suggest not only do the Oilers bounce back tonight, they bounce back big. Ryan? Just my thought.
I'm going to counter, Gino. Let me counter real quick. Stars are excellent on the road. One of the best road teams, if not the best, I think, during the regular season. And dynamite in the playoffs. They're 5-1. They don't muck about on the road. This is going to be a massive challenge for the Oilers. This thing's going to swing hard in Dallas's favor if Edmonton doesn't come out and try and dictate a little tonight.
All right. This is all on tape, brother. You and I will revisit this very conversation after.
Can't wait.
19-3.